The first time I heard the second pair of footsteps, I stopped walking. But they didn't. That's when I realized, whatever was behind me wasn't trying to hide anymore. I worked night security at a remote logging site deep in the mountains. The place was dead after sunset. No workers. No machines running. Just miles of trees, and a long dirt road that cut through them like a scar. My job was simple. Walk the perimeter every hour. Check the storage sheds. Make sure no one was trespassing. No one ever did. At least, not officially. That night started like any other. Cold air. Total silence. The kind that presses against your ears. I had my flashlight, my radio, and a small sidearm I'd never had to use. Around 1:30 a.m., I started my second patrol. Same route. Same routine. That's when I heard it. A footstep behind me. Soft. Slow. Crunch. I stopped walking immediately. Turned around. Shined my light straight into the trees. Nothing. Just tall trunks and darkness between them. I told myself it was probably an animal. Maybe a deer. Maybe something smaller. I kept walking. Crunch. There it was again. This time closer. I stopped again. Turned faster. Hello. I called out. No answer. Just the wind moving through branches, barely. I stood there for a full minute. Listening. Nothing else. So I kept going. But now, I was counting my steps. 1, 2, 3. Crunch. It matched me. Exactly. I stopped instantly. The other step came half a second later. Not synced anymore. Delayed. Like whoever it was, needed time to react. My chest tightened. This wasn't an animal. I turned slowly, lifting the flashlight again. This time I aimed lower, scanning the ground. And that's when I saw it. Footprints. Fresh. Right in the dirt road behind me. They weren't mine. They were deeper. Wider. And they stopped, about 10 feet away. Like whoever made them had frozen the moment I turned. I felt my throat go dry. Show yourself, I said, louder this time. Nothing. No movement. No sound. But something felt wrong. Not empty wrong. Like I wasn't alone, but being watched from somewhere I couldn't see. I backed up slowly, keeping my light trained on those footprints. Then I heard it again. Not behind me this time. To my right. Inside the trees. A slow, dragging sound. Like a boot scraping over dirt. I swung the light toward it. The beam cut through branches. Shadows shifting. Then I saw a shape. Low. Still. Too still. My heart started pounding. Hey! I shouted. This is private property. The shape didn't move. I took a step closer. Big mistake. The moment my foot hit the ground, the shape moved. Fast. Not away from me. Toward me. Branches snapped. Leaves crushed. Heavy footsteps charging straight in my direction. I stumbled back, raising my weapon without even thinking. Stop! The noise stopped instantly. Just like that. Dead silence again. I couldn't see anything now. Just darkness where the movement had been. But I could hear breathing. Deep. Slow. Human. Too controlled to be panic. Too close to be safe. I kept my gun aimed at the trees, my hands shaking. Come out. I said, quieter now. Nothing. Then. I heard it. A whisper. Right behind me. Don't turn around. I froze. Every instinct told me to spin, to shine my light, to run. But something in that voice. It wasn't threatening. It was warning me. And it sounded terrified. Not of me. Of something else. My breathing got shallow. My finger tightened on the trigger. Why? I whispered. The voice came again. Closer this time. Right at my ear. Because it's watching you from the front. My eyes slowly lifted. Back toward the trees. And then I saw it. Not clearly, but enough. A man. Standing perfectly still between two trees. So still he almost blended in. But his eyes. Even in the dark. I could see them. Wide. Unblinking. Locked onto me. He wasn't moving. Not even breathing. Just watching. I felt something shift behind me. A slight step. The person who had been whispering was backing away. Slowly. Quietly. Leaving me there. Between them. I didn't think. I ran. I sprinted down the dirt road, not looking back, not stopping, my boots slamming against the ground as hard as I could. But as I ran, I heard it again. Two sets of footsteps. One behind me. And one, keeping pace beside me. Perfectly matched. I reached the main gate, slammed it shut behind me, locked myself in the small guard cabin and didn't move until sunrise. When the morning crew arrived, I told them everything. They went out to check. They found the footprints. Two sets. One following mine. And one circling me. Perfectly. Over and over. Like something had been walking around me. While I stood there in the dark, thinking I was alone. I heard my own voice on the radio, calling for help, while I was still holding it in my hand. The message was distorted, weak, but it was unmistakably me. Same tone. Same breathing. Same panic. That was the moment I realized. I wasn't alone on that mountain. I used to work night security at a remote telecom station built halfway up a rocky mountain. No villages nearby. No roads after sunset. Just one narrow dirt path winding down into the forest below. My shift started at 8 p.m. and ended at 6 a.m. 10 hours of silence. 10 hours of wind scraping against metal towers and cables humming in the dark. There were only two structures up there. The main control cabin, and a smaller storage shed about 50 meters away. Both surrounded by chain-link fencing. The company gave me a radio. Old model. Crackly signal. Only used for emergency check-ins every 2 hours. At first, the job felt peaceful. But after a week, small things started to feel off. Footsteps. Not loud. Not clear. Just soft crunches on gravel. At random times. I would step outside the cabin with my flashlight, sweep the area, and find nothing. No animals. No movement. Just wind. I told myself it was probably loose stones shifting, or maybe my boots echoing weirdly. But then, the footsteps started responding. One night, around 2 a.m., I stepped out again after hearing that faint crunching sound. I stood still. Silence. Then I took one step forward. Crunch. And right after, another crunch. Not mine. Behind me. I froze. Slowly turned around. Nothing. My heart was beating so loud I could feel it in my throat. I went back inside and locked the door. After that, I stopped checking. A few nights later, something else happened. I was doing a routine walk toward the storage shed. The path was dimly lit by one flickering bulb. Halfway there, I noticed something on the ground. Footprints. Fresh. Not animal tracks. Not random marks. Clear boot prints. Leading from the fence toward the shed. I crouched down and examined them. They were deeper than mine, heavier, like whoever made them was carrying weight. And they were recent. I knew because the dust hadn't settled back yet. I followed the prints slowly. Each step felt heavier. The silence around me, unnatural. The prints stopped right at the shed door. I stared at it. Closed. Locked. I checked the padlock. Still sealed. I backed away. Didn't open it. Didn't want to. That night, I didn't leave the cabin again. The radio incident happened 2 nights after that. Around 凌晨3:17分. The radio suddenly crackled. At first I thought it was the usual static. Then I heard breathing. Slow. Uneven. Then a voice. Help, please. I grabbed the radio instantly. Hello? Who's there? Silence. Then again. I'm at the cabin, please. My stomach dropped. Because I was at the cabin. I pressed the button harder. This is security. Identify yourself. A pause. Then, clearer this time. I'm inside. I spun around. The cabin was small. One room. Nowhere to hide. I checked every corner. Nothing. My hands were shaking now. I brought the radio close to my face. Stop messing around. Who is this? And then, the voice came back. Perfectly clear. Open the door. My voice. Exactly my voice. Same tone. Same accent. Even the slight stutter I sometimes had when I was nervous. I dropped the radio. It hit the floor with a dull thud. And then, I heard it. Not from the radio. From outside. A knock. 3 slow knocks. Knock. 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 I couldn't move. My body just locked. The knocking came again. Louder this time. Open the door. My voice. Right outside. I stepped back slowly. Until I hit the wall. Every instinct told me not to open it. But something else, something stupid, made me step forward. I don't know why. Maybe fear. Maybe disbelief. Maybe I just needed to prove it wasn't real. I reached the door. My hand hovered over the handle. And then, I noticed something. At the bottom of the door, there was a small gap. Just enough to see shadows. And I saw feet. Standing right there. Boots. Covered in dust. Same size as the footprints I saw earlier. But, they weren't moving. Just standing there. Too still. I leaned closer. And then I saw it. The boots were facing the wrong way. Toes pointing away from the door. As if whoever was standing there was facing away from me. But somehow, still knocking. The knocking came again. But the feet didn't move. Not even slightly. My chest tightened. I backed away slowly. Didn't make a sound. Didn't breathe. The voice came one last time. Soft. Right against the door. Please, it's cold out here. My voice again. But this time, there was something else in it. Something wrong. Like someone trying to imitate me, but not understanding how fear actually sounds. I didn't respond. Didn't move. I just stood there, staring at the door until the knocking stopped. And after a few minutes, the footsteps returned. Crunch. Crunch. Slowly moving away. Not toward the path. Not toward the fence. But around the cabin. Circling it. For the rest of the night. At sunrise, I opened the door. The ground was covered in footprints. Dozens of them. All around the cabin. All the same size. All leading in circles. But none of them led away. Just circles. Like whoever made them never left. I quit that same day. Didn't go back. Didn't even collect my last paycheck. Because I kept thinking about one thing. If those footprints never left, then whatever was outside that night was still there. When I walked out, the first time I heard my own footsteps coming from behind me, I stopped breathing. Because I was standing completely still. And whatever was out there didn't stop. I worked as a night shift security guard for a logging site deep in the mountains. It was about 2 hours away from the nearest town, surrounded by thick forest and old dirt roads that barely showed up on maps. No lights. No signal. Just trees and silence. My job was simple. Walk the perimeter every hour. Check the storage sheds. Make sure no one was stealing equipment. Most nights were boring. Too quiet, honestly. The kind of quiet that presses against your ears until you start hearing things that aren't there. That night started like any other. Cold air. No wind. Just the sound of gravel crunching under my boots as I made my rounds. Around 1:30 a.m., I reached the far end of the property. That part always made me uneasy. The trees grew closer together there, thicker. It felt like the forest was leaning in, watching. I remember stopping for a second to light a cigarette. That's when I heard it. A single step behind me. I froze. I didn't turn around right away. I told myself it was just something falling. A branch. An animal. But then, another step. Slow. Heavy. Deliberate. Not an animal. It sounded exactly like my boots on gravel. I turned around fast. Nothing. Just darkness. Trees. Shadows layered over more shadows. I laughed nervously. Tried to shake it off. Took another step forward. Crunch. Then right behind me. Crunch. I stopped again. My chest tightened. I took one slow step. Crunch. Behind me. Crunch. Perfect timing. Same weight. Same rhythm. Someone was walking when I walked. Stopping when I stopped. But I couldn't see anyone. I told myself not to panic. Maybe it was an echo. Maybe the ground was weird. So I did something stupid. I ran. And for 2 seconds there was only my own footsteps. Then, another set joined in. Faster. Closer. Right behind me. I swear I could feel it, like someone just inches from my back. I ran harder, heart slamming in my chest. The main shed wasn't far. If I could just reach the light. The footsteps behind me stopped. Just like that. I didn't. I ran all the way to the shed, nearly tripping as I slammed into the door and fumbled for the handle. I got inside and locked it. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold the flashlight. I stood there in the dark, listening. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. Just silence again. After a few minutes I started to calm down. I felt stupid. Embarrassed even. Until I noticed the radio. It was sitting on the desk. And it was on. I hadn't left it on. Then it crackled. A burst of static. And then, breathing. Low. Slow. Right into the mic. I picked it up with shaking hands. Hello. The breathing stopped. Silence. Then something tapped the side of the shed. Once. Twice. 3 times. Slow. Patient. Like it knew I was inside. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Another tap, this time on the window. I turned my head very slowly. The glass was dirty, but I could see outside just enough. Nothing at first. Then, movement. A shape shifting slightly to the side, just out of full view. Whoever it was, they were standing right next to the window. Close enough to touch the glass. I forced myself to step closer. Just one step. And that's when the face moved into view. It was a man. Normal. Completely normal. No mask. No expression. Just staring at me. But something was wrong. His clothes were filthy. Torn. Like he'd been living out there for weeks. And his feet. Bare. Covered in mud and blood. I stared at him, trying to understand. He slowly raised one hand and pressed it against the glass. Then he smiled. Not wide. Not crazy. Just a small, calm smile. Like he'd been waiting for me. Then he leaned closer and whispered something. I couldn't hear it through the glass. But at the same time, the radio in my hand crackled again. And his voice came through it. Clear. Right next to my ear. Now you know how it feels. My blood ran cold. I stepped back, dropping the radio. And when I looked up again, he was gone. Just gone. No footsteps. No sound. Nothing. I didn't finish my shift. I stayed locked inside until sunrise. Didn't sleep. Didn't move. When morning came, I went outside. And I found them. Footprints. All around the shed. Dozens of them. Circling it. Back and forth. Back and forth. Like he'd been walking around me for hours. But what made my stomach drop was that every footprint matched mine. Same size. Same pattern. Even the worn-out edge on my left boot. Except for one thing. Mixed in between them were bare footprints. Bloody ones. Following mine. Step for step. I knew something was wrong the moment the radio went silent. Not static. Not interference. Just dead. And that's when I heard footsteps, coming from inside a building I had just locked. I work night security. Mostly empty places. Warehouses. Construction sites. The kind of jobs where nothing ever happens until it does. This one was an abandoned logging facility deep in the mountains. Miles from the nearest road. No signal. No neighbors. Just trees, and darkness that felt thicker than it should be. My shift started at 10 p.m. Routine check. Lock all doors. Walk the perimeter. Sit in the small office and watch the cameras. Easy money. At least that's what I thought. The place had 3 main buildings. The office, a storage unit, and a long processing hall. I checked all of them myself. Every door. Every window. Everything was empty. Quiet. Too quiet. Around midnight I was sitting in the office. Just me, the hum of an old generator, and 12 security camera feeds flickering on a dusty monitor. That's when the radio cut out. I tapped it. Nothing. Control, you copy? I said. Silence. I leaned back in my chair, listening. At first I thought it was just the generator, but then I heard it. A soft, slow, 信号 step 信号. Not outside. Inside. I froze. Another step. Then another. Heavy. Careful. Like someone trying not to be heard. I stood up slowly, my chair creaking louder than it should have. My eyes moved to the monitors. Camera liu. The processing hall. There was movement. I stepped closer to the screen. At the far end of the hall, something shifted behind a stack of old crates. Just a shadow at first. Then it moved again, quickly disappearing out of frame. My stomach dropped. I had locked that building myself. Every door. Every single one. I grabbed my flashlight. My hands were already sweating. Probably nothing, I muttered. But I didn't believe it. The walk to the processing hall felt longer than before. The gravel crunched under my boots, loud, too loud. The trees around me didn't move. No wind. No animals. Just silence. I reached the door. Still locked. I checked it twice. The chain was tight. The padlock untouched. My heart started pounding harder. I unlocked it slowly. The metal clink echoed into the darkness inside. I pushed the door open. The smell hit me first. Dust. Rushed. Something damp. I stepped in. Hello. I called out. My voice sounded small. The beam of my flashlight cut through the darkness. Landing on machines, crates. Shadows stretching across the floor. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Closer this time. From behind the crates. I stopped breathing. Security, I said louder. If someone's here, come out now. Silence. Then. A faint sound. Breathing. Not mine. Slow. Deep. Controlled. Right behind the crates. I moved forward, step by step, my flashlight shaking slightly. The closer I got, the louder the breathing became. Whoever it was, they knew I was there. They weren't running. They weren't hiding. They were waiting. I reached the edge of the crates. I hesitated. Then I stepped around them. Nothing. Empty. The breathing stopped. I spun around fast, sweeping the light across the hall. Nothing. No one. But then, from the far end of the building, a door slammed shut. Loud. Violent. I flinched hard. That door led to the back exit. I ran. My boots pounded against the floor as I rushed toward it. When I reached it, it was wide open. The lock broken. Hanging loose. Cold air rushed in from outside. I stepped out slowly, scanning the darkness beyond. "Hey!" I shouted. No answer. Just trees. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Behind me. Inside the building. I turned slowly. And that's when I saw him. Standing in the middle of the hall. Tall. Still. Just watching me. I couldn't see his face clearly, but I knew he was looking straight at me. We didn't move. For a few seconds, it felt like time stopped. Then he smiled. Not wide. Not crazy. Just a small, calm smile. Like he knew something I didn't. I took a step back. He took a step forward. Slow. Deliberate. I backed out the door. My heart racing uncontrollably now. "I'm calling the police," I yelled. He didn't stop. Another step. Then another. Still smiling. I turned and ran. I didn't stop until I reached the office. I slammed the door shut and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my phone. No signal. Of course. I looked at the monitors. Camera Lil. The hall. He was gone. All cameras. Nothing. Empty. I didn't move for the next hour. Just sat there, staring at the screens, waiting. At 10 a.m., the radio suddenly came back. "Unit 14, status?" A voice crackled. I grabbed it instantly. "There's someone here." He broke in. "Unit 14, the voice cut in, confused. "That site's been closed for years. You're the only one assigned there." My blood went cold. "I saw him," I said. "He was inside." Silence. "Then stay where you are. We're sending someone at sunrise." I didn't argue. I stayed. Didn't move. Didn't blink. When morning finally came, the relief hit me like a wave. The replacement guard arrived just after sunrise. We checked the hall together. Everything was locked. No broken door. No footprints. No sign anyone had ever been there. I thought maybe, just maybe. I imagined it. Until I went back to the office. One of the monitors had frozen. Camera Lil. The processing hall. And right in the center of the screen was me. Standing in the doorway. From earlier that night. Frozen mid-step. But I wasn't alone. Behind me, so close his face was almost touching mine, was the same man. Smiling. Watching the camera. I quit that day. They told me the footage couldn't be saved. But I know what I saw. And sometimes when it's quiet, I still hear that breathing. Right behind me. I heard the footsteps before I even stepped out of the cabin, slow, heavy, and circling it, like someone was waiting for me to come outside. The radio on my belt crackled once, then went completely dead. That's when I realized I wasn't scheduled to patrol this section tonight. I was working the night shift as a security guard for a remote logging site deep in the mountains. No cell signal. No nearby town. Just miles of dense forest and dirt roads that barely showed up on maps. The company had recently shut down operations, but they kept one guard on rotation to watch the equipment. That guard was me. My post was a small wooden cabin near the edge of the forest. One room. One desk. A flickering light bulb that buzzed constantly. Most nights were dead quiet, just wind and the occasional animal in the distance. But that night felt wrong. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard something outside. Not loud. Not aggressive. Just movement. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Crunching over gravel. I froze at my desk and listened. Step, step, step. They didn't pass by. They didn't fade away. They stayed close, circling the cabin. I grabbed my flashlight and walked to the door. My hand was already sweating before I touched the handle. Hello. I called out. No response. The footsteps stopped. Dead silence. I opened the door and stepped outside, sweeping the flashlight across the clearing. The beam cut through the darkness, catching dust and drifting fog, but no person. Just trees. Tall. Black. Endless. I stepped out a little further, scanning left and right. Nothing. Then I noticed something that made my chest tighten. Fresh footprints in the dirt. Boot prints. Deep. Clear. They circled the cabin, over and over, like whoever made them had been walking around it for a long time. But there was only one set. And they ended right in front of me. No tracks leading away. Just gone. I backed up slowly and went inside, locking the door behind me. My heart was pounding harder now. I told myself it was probably some worker messing around, or maybe someone from another site. But something didn't add up. No vehicle sounds. No voices. No radio call. Nothing. At Langdenshofen AM, the radio suddenly came back to life with a loud burst of static. I grabbed it immediately. Control, this is Station 4. Anyone out here? I asked. Silence, then a voice. Station 4, you're not scheduled tonight. It was dispatch. I frowned. What do you mean? I'm here right now. There was a pause. Then the voice came back, quieter. No. Your shift starts tomorrow night. There shouldn't be anyone at Station 4. My stomach dropped. I got the call yesterday, I said. They told me to cover tonight. Another pause. We didn't send anyone, dispatch replied. Leave immediately. Before I could respond, the radio cut out again. That's when I heard it. Breathing. Right behind the cabin. Not outside in the distance, right up against the wall. Slow. Wet. Human breathing. I didn't move. I couldn't. The sound dragged along the back wall, like someone was walking with their face pressed against it, exhaling, inhaling, over and over. Then a knock. 3 slow taps. Right on the wooden wall behind me. I turned slowly, every muscle in my body tight. Another 3 knocks. Then silence. I grabbed the flashlight again and forced myself to move. Step by step, I made my way to the back door. The breathing had stopped. Everything was quiet again. I opened the door just a crack and shined the light outside. At first, nothing. Then the beam landed on something that made my legs go weak. A man. Standing about 10 feet away. Facing me. Not moving. His clothes were filthy, covered in mud and something darker. His head was tilted slightly to the side like he was studying me. But his face looked wrong. Not injured, just empty. No expression. No reaction to the light in his eyes. Hey, are you okay? I asked, my voice barely steady. He didn't answer. Didn't blink. Didn't move. Then, slowly, he lifted his arm and pointed, past me into the cabin. I turned my head for just a second, instinctively. And that's when I heard it. Footsteps. Inside. Right behind me. I spun around and threw the door open wider, shining the flashlight into the cabin. The chair I had been sitting on was pulled out. The desk drawer open. Something moved in the corner of the room. Fast. Low to the ground. I stumbled back outside, my breath coming in short bursts now. My mind couldn't process what I had just seen. I turned back toward the man. But he was gone. No sound. No movement. Just gone. I didn't think anymore. I ran. Straight to the truck parked near the front of the cabin. I fumbled with the keys, dropped them once, picked them up and jumped inside. As I started the engine, I looked up. And my blood ran cold. Someone was sitting in the passenger seat. Not the man from outside. Someone else. Crouched. Barefoot. Covered in dirt. He was smiling. Not wide, not exaggerated, just a small, steady smile, like he had been waiting there the whole time. I screamed and threw the door open, falling out of the truck. I didn't even shut it. I just ran into the trees, not caring where I was going. Branches tore at my arms. My boots slipped in the mud. I could hear movement behind me, not fast but steady. Following. Always the same distance. Step, step, step. I don't know how long I ran. Maybe minutes. Maybe hours. Eventually I reached the main road and flagged down a passing truck at sunrise. When I told them what happened, they drove back with me. The cabin door was open. The truck was still running. Passenger door closed. No one inside. But on the passenger seat, there were fresh, wet footprints. Barefoot. Facing me. The radio on my shoulder crackled once, then went completely dead. At the same exact moment, every light in the building shut off. And from somewhere deep inside the warehouse, I heard a door slowly creak open. I had been working night security for about 6 months. Most of my shifts were boring. Quiet. Just me, a flashlight, and long empty hours. That night, I was assigned to an old storage facility out past the edge of town. Surrounded by dry land and scattered trees. No nearby houses. No traffic. Nothing. The place was supposed to be empty. That's what they told me. My shift started at 11 p.m. I did the usual rounds. Checked the outer fence. Locked gates. Everything seemed fine. Too quiet, if anything. Even the wind felt still. Inside, the building smelled like dust and old wood. Rows of metal shelves stretched into darkness. Most of them empty. Some had broken crates. Nothing valuable. At around 1:15 a.m., I heard the first sound. Footsteps. At first, I thought it was my own echo. The concrete floor sometimes played tricks on your ears. But then I stopped walking. The footsteps didn't. 1, 2, 3. Slow. Heavy. Coming from somewhere deeper inside the warehouse. I called out, "Hello? Security." No response. Just silence again. I told myself it was probably an animal. Maybe someone left a door open. But something about those steps felt deliberate. Like someone trying not to be heard. I turned on my flashlight and moved toward the sound. Each step I took felt louder than it should. My breathing started to echo in my ears. The beam of light barely reached the end of each aisle. Halfway through the third row, I saw it. A door. At the back wall. Slightly open. I was sure that door was closed earlier. I remembered checking it. As I got closer, I noticed something else. The floor. There were fresh marks in the dust. Footprints. Barefoot. That made my stomach tighten. Whoever was here wasn't wearing shoes. I reached the door and pushed it open slowly. It led to a smaller storage room. No windows. Just darkness. I stepped inside. Hello. Nothing. Then, a sound. Right behind me. I spun around so fast I nearly dropped my flashlight. The main warehouse was empty. But I could swear. I heard breathing. Not mine. Someone else's. Close. Too close. I backed out of the room, my heart pounding hard now. My radio was still dead. No signal. No backup. I told myself to leave. Just get out. But as I turned toward the exit, I saw something that stopped me cold. The footprints. They weren't leading into the small room. They were leading out of it. And they stopped. Right where I was standing. I felt it then. That feeling. Like someone was right behind me. Watching. Waiting. I didn't turn around. I couldn't. Instead, I slowly started walking toward the exit. My steps shaky. Controlled. Then I heard it again. Footsteps. Matching mine. Perfectly. One step for every step I took. I stopped. The other footsteps stopped. I started walking again. They followed. Closer this time. I couldn't take it anymore. I turned around and shined my flashlight directly behind me. Nothing. Just empty aisles. But the sound of breathing was louder now. Right next to my ear. I ran. I didn't care about protocol anymore. I sprinted toward the exit door at the front. The footsteps behind me exploded into a full run. Heavy. Fast. Right on my heels. I could hear it now. Whoever it was, wasn't trying to stay quiet anymore. They wanted me to know they were there. I reached the exit door and grabbed the handle. Locked. My heart dropped. I knew I hadn't locked it. Behind me. The footsteps stopped. Slowly, very slowly. I turned around. The flashlight trembled in my hand. And that's when I saw him. He was standing at the end of the aisle. Tall. Thin. Completely still. His skin looked pale under the weak light. And his feet. Bare. Covered in dust. But it was his face that froze me. He wasn't blinking. Just staring. Directly at me. I shouted, "Who are you?" No answer. He didn't move. Didn't even breathe. Then he smiled. Slowly. Too wide. And then he ran. Straight at me. I slammed my shoulder into the exit door again and again. It finally burst open. I stumbled outside and didn't stop running until I reached my car. I locked the doors and looked back. The warehouse entrance was dark. Empty. No one came out. Police came later. They searched the entire building. They found nothing. No sign of forced entry. No records of anyone living nearby. But they did find something. In the dust. All over the warehouse. Hundreds of footprints. Barefoot. And every single one of them was heading toward the front door. As if something inside had been waiting for someone to finally try to leave. The first time I heard my own footsteps coming from behind me, I thought it was just an echo. The second time, they didn't stop when I did. I was working a night shift as a security guard at a remote logging site deep in the mountains. The place had been shut down for months after some legal issue, but they still needed someone to patrol the equipment and storage cabins. It was just me, a flashlight, and miles of silent forest. No signal. No nearby towns. Just trees and darkness. My shift started at 10 p.m. By midnight the cold had settled in hard. The kind that seeps through your jacket and makes your bones feel hollow. I was doing my usual round, walking along the dirt path between the old cabins and the stacked timber piles. That's when I noticed it. Footsteps. Behind me. Soft. Slow. Matching mine. I stopped. The sound stopped too. I turned around and shined my flashlight into the trees. Nothing. Just branches. And the wind barely moving them. I told myself it was just the gravel shifting under my boots, echoing weirdly in the quiet. So I kept walking. And there it was again. Step, step, step. Right behind me. This time I stopped suddenly and turned around fast. Nothing. But something felt off. The forest was too quiet. No insects. No birds. No wind. Just my breathing getting louder. I tried to laugh it off, but it came out dry. I continued my patrol, a little faster now. My flashlight beam shook slightly as I scanned the area. Then I heard it again. Not footsteps this time. Breathing. Low. Close. Behind me. I froze. My skin went cold. Not from the air, but from that feeling like someone was standing right there. Close enough to touch me. I turned slowly. Nothing. But I swear, I could still hear it. Faint. Like someone trying to stay quiet but failing. I backed away, my heart pounding. Hello. I called out, my voice cracking. No answer. Just silence. I decided to head back to the main cabin. Something wasn't right. Maybe someone had wandered onto the property. Maybe they were hiding. Watching. As I walked back, I kept turning around every few seconds. Nothing. Every time. But the feeling didn't go away. It got worse. Stronger. Like I wasn't alone anymore. Halfway to the cabin, I heard something else. A twig snapping. Off the path. To my left. I swung the flashlight toward the sound. The beam cut through the trees, and stopped on something that made my stomach drop. Boot prints. Fresh. Deep in the mud. Not mine. They were just off the path, like someone had been standing there, watching me pass. I crouched down, my hands shaking, and touched one of the prints. Still wet. Whoever made them was close. Very close. I stood up quickly and backed away, scanning the trees again. I know you're there, I said, louder this time. Nothing. But then, step. Right behind me. I spun around instantly, raising my flashlight. And for a split second, I saw movement. A shadow slipping behind a tree. Fast. Too fast. My heart slammed against my chest. I started walking backward, not taking my eyes off that spot. Show yourself. I shouted. No response. Then, another step. Closer. This time I didn't turn. I ran. I didn't care about staying calm anymore. I sprinted toward the cabin, my boots pounding the ground. The sound of my own breathing filled my ears. But over it, I could hear it. Running. Behind me. Matching my pace. Gaining. I didn't look back. I couldn't. I knew if I did, I'd see something I didn't want to. The cabin door was just ahead. I reached it, yanked it open, and slammed it shut behind me, locking it fast. I pressed my back against the door, gasping for air. Silence. For a moment, nothing. Then, a slow, deliberate knock. 3 times. Right on the door behind me. I held my breath. Another knock. This time harder. Then a voice. Low. Calm. Right outside. Hey, you dropped something. My blood ran cold. I hadn't dropped anything. I didn't answer. The handle slowly turned. But the door was locked. It stopped. Then the voice again, closer now. Almost pressed against the wood. You should have looked back. I stayed there all night, not moving, not making a sound. Every few minutes, I heard footsteps circling the cabin. Sometimes stopping right outside the window. Waiting. Morning finally came. When the sun rose, everything went quiet. I waited another hour before unlocking the door. Outside, the forest looked normal again. Calm. Empty. But right in front of the door, there was something lying on the ground. My flashlight. The one I had in my hand the entire time. I checked. The one inside the cabin was still in my grip. And that's when I noticed the footprints around the door. Dozens of them. All leading up to the cabin. But none leading away. I heard footsteps behind me, even though I was the only guard assigned to that site. They matched my pace exactly. Step, step, step. And the moment I stopped, they stopped too. I worked night security for a remote logging facility deep in the mountains. It was the kind of place where the road disappears after a few miles and your phone loses signal long before you arrive. No nearby towns. No houses. Just trees, endless trees. My shift started at 10 p.m., ended at 6 a.m. The job sounded simple. Walk the perimeter. Check the storage sheds. Make sure no one was stealing equipment. The company had recently reported missing fuel and tools. They assumed it was locals sneaking in at night. But on my third shift, something felt wrong. It started with small things. The main gate was slightly open when I arrived. I clearly remembered locking it the previous night. I told myself maybe the day crew forgot to secure it. Still, it bothered me. Around midnight I did my first patrol. Flashlight in hand. Radio clipped to my jacket. The forest around the site was silent. No insects. No wind. Just stillness. That's when I heard it. A faint crunch. Like someone stepping on dry leaves. I stopped walking. Held my breath. Nothing. I turned around and scanned the tree line with my flashlight. The beam barely cut through the darkness. Just trees, shadows, nothing moving. I kept walking. Then it happened again. Crunch, crunch. This time closer. Right behind me. I spun around fast. My light shaking. But again, nothing. Just empty space and trees. I tried to laugh it off. Maybe an animal. Maybe my boots echoing weirdly in the quiet. But then I noticed something that made my stomach drop. The footprints. In the dirt near the fuel shed, there were fresh tracks. Not mine. Boot prints. Facing toward me. Like someone had been standing there, watching. I radioed in, but there was no signal. Just static. That was normal out here, but tonight it felt different. Like I was cut off completely. I decided to stay near the main building for a while. Around 2 a.m., I was sitting inside the small security cabin. One door. One window. A weak yellow light above me. That's when I heard breathing. Soft, slow, deliberate. Right outside the door. I froze. It wasn't wind. It wasn't an animal. It was too steady. Too controlled. I leaned forward slowly, trying not to make a sound. The breathing stopped. Dead silence. Then, a single step. Right outside. The wooden floor creaked under weight. Someone was standing there. I grabbed my flashlight and walked toward the door. My hand was shaking. I didn't even realize how hard I was gripping the handle until my fingers hurt. I swung the door open. Nothing. Empty. But the air outside felt disturbed. Like someone had just moved away seconds before I opened it. I stepped out slowly, scanning left and right. That's when I saw movement near the tree line. A shadow slipping between the trees. I shouted, "Hey! Who's there?" No response. I started moving toward it. Slow at first, then faster. Branches snapping under my boots. My light bouncing everywhere. Then I saw him. A man. Standing between the trees. About 30 meters away. He wasn't moving. Just standing there. Watching me. I yelled again. Told him to come forward. He didn't. Instead, he turned and walked deeper into the forest. Not running. Not panicking. Just walking. Like he wanted me to follow. And I did. I don't know why. Maybe anger. Maybe instinct. Maybe I just didn't want to feel like prey. I followed him into the trees. The deeper I went, the darker it got. My flashlight barely helped now. The facility lights disappeared behind me. I kept seeing him ahead, just far enough that I couldn't catch up. Then suddenly he stopped. I slowed down. My breathing loud in my ears. I stepped closer. "Hey, stop." He turned. And that's when I realized something was horribly wrong. His face. I couldn't see it clearly. Not because of darkness, but because he was covering it. With his own hands. Like he didn't want me to see. Slowly he lowered them. And smiled. Not a normal smile. Too wide. Too forced. Like someone pretending to be human. My chest tightened. Every instinct screamed at me to run. But before I could react, I heard something behind me. Crunch, crunch. More footsteps. I turned around fast. And my blood went cold. There were more of them. 3, maybe 4 shapes between the trees. Standing still. Watching me. I spun back toward the man in front of me. He was gone. Just gone. No sound. No movement. Nothing. Now I was surrounded. The footsteps started again. Closing in. Slow, deliberate, synchronized. I ran. I didn't care where. I just ran. Branches hit my face. I almost tripped multiple times. My flashlight flickered as I moved. Behind me. I could hear them. Not running. Just walking. But somehow, always close. Always just behind me. I burst out of the trees and saw the facility lights ahead. I sprinted toward them, lungs burning. I slammed the cabin door shut and locked it. Then I turned off the light. I don't know why. Instinct. I stood there in darkness, trying to stay silent. Then I heard it. Right outside the window. Breathing. Heavy, slow. Right against the glass. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Minutes passed. Then a knock. Soft. 1, 2, 3. I stayed frozen. Then a voice. Calm. Quiet. Right outside. I know you're alone. My entire body went numb. Because I never told anyone I was working solo that night. Not the company. Not anyone. And then the voice said something I will never forget. It whispered my name. Perfectly. Like it had known me for years. I quit the next morning. Didn't go back. A week later I heard something that still keeps me up at night. Another guard had been assigned to that same site. He disappeared. They found his flashlight in the forest. Still on. Pointing at a set of footprints. Dozens of them. All surrounding one spot. But none leading away.